I'm going to jump right in and sharing my screen. My name is Frederick. I'm one of the co-founders of SciFlow. And today I'm going to write a paper with you in a way that you can also use to co-author papers from the home office. So you should all be able to see my screen now, and I'll just jump right into a document that I've prepared to give you a short overview of what you can expect today. So most importantly, I will tell you how to get started with a template, because this is something that can really make life easier for you. Then I'm going to show you how you can write and work with SciFlow, use your reference manager, add figures and everything that you need to do in your normal writing flow. And then I'm going to give you specific tips on how to work together with others who might be in a different time zone or just in a different office. In the end, I'm going to give you a short overview of what to expect from us in the future. I'm going to give you a roadmap just so you can know what you can expect in SciFlow to develop this year. So let's jump right in. What you can see here is SciFlow, and I've created one chapter already. But to go on and tell you about templates, I'm going to create another chapter. And to make this a bit more visual for you, I've prepared a table already in another document that I just pasted in. So basically, when you start in SciFlow, it's kind of important to know what kind of paper or document you want to write. We have journal templates, we have scientific manuscripts, and then on the website you will also find templates for thesis. So let's say you want to write for a journal. Then what you do is you go to sciflow.net and you click on the top right, templates. You will then come to our journal view, where you can find a list of a lot of different journals already. And you can either browse through this list, or if you have some specific categories that you want to filter for, you can also do that to make it easier to find your journal. Let's say I want to write for Frontiers. I can now click the little editing icon here, and I will be thrown right back into SciFlow. But with a twist, what you can see is we already have a table of contents on the right that reflects the author guidelines given by Frontiers. And to preview real quick, if I want to export this document, you will see it's already conforming to the Frontiers review guidelines with the numbering, all the correspondence information in here already, and of course the chapter structure that I just gave you. So starting with a template for a journal, it's quite easy, and it gives you everything that you should need to submit to a journal. But I want to give you a quick overview over the other templates that we have here as well. So one of the other options is scientific manuscripts. And these are actually important if you're not writing for a specific journal, but maybe you're writing something for your department. Maybe you're just preparing a paper, but you don't know where to hand it in yet. So what you can do, instead of choosing a specific journal, you can choose one of the categories here. You might find yours in here as well. Let's say I work for medicine in the medicine field, then I would probably choose AMA. Or let's say I work in computer science, then I would choose IEEE. So going back to the website, clicking on templates, now I'm on the scientific manuscript section. And here you can do the same thing as we did before with the journals. You can choose your category. You can then select in which language you want to write. Right now we're offering German and English, and this will change some things like quotation marks for you. And then you click Create Document. I'm not going to do that now because I wanted to show you the third category, which is Thesis. Thesis, in difference to journals and scientific manuscripts, usually doesn't come as a LaTeX or as a Word export, but rather what you want to hand in is a PDF that's fully laid out. So in difference to the journals and the scientific manuscripts, starting a thesis looks a bit different. Let's say I want to start with AMA. I can choose whether to start an expose, just an assignment, or a thesis. And I can select the language as well. Creating the document now throws you back into the app that you're familiar with already. And what you can see on the right as well is that the table of contents will be a bit more populated now, because of course it's a thesis, it's going to have more chapters, and we're also throwing in some more information that will be placed on the cover page. Just to give you an idea of what a finished thesis could look like, I'm going to drag one over that was just created with SciFlow. And what you can see is we have a complete cover page, we have an imprint, we have a finished table of contents that has all the numbering and all the correct formatting for this thesis. And what you can also see is even the page numbering is reflecting the guidelines that were given to this PhD student. What you can also see is that the layout is actually quite nice, and we think that you can have quite a good reading experience using SciFlow and then exporting a thesis as a PDF. But let's go back to papers, because that's why we're here. So I've shown you the different types of templates and how to get started. But now let's maybe jump into one of these papers. So to do that, I will create another chapter here. I will call it Writing with SciFlow. And actually, I wanted to show you a couple of things here, which I'm going to copy in as well, because that makes it easier and you don't want to see me type. Okay, so there are a couple of things that are really important for writing with SciFlow. And the most important one is probably structuring, because if you choose a structure that is scientifically sound, so you're using chapter titles and you're using heading twos, which can then be your subchapters, it will be really easy for us to create a great end result in the end, to do all the numbering for you and to make it look pretty in the end as well. So to structure my document, I have a couple of subchapters here. So structuring might be my first heading 2. Then I want to talk about figures. I will talk about adding tables. I will talk about equations and about cross-referencing. So these now, as you can see on the right-hand side as well, are now my subchapters, heading 2. I've already shown you a bit about structuring. Of course, you cannot only add headings 2, but you can also go deeper than that, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5. This really depends on what you're writing. If you're writing a normal paper, then usually you won't go that deep. If you're writing a thesis, like I've shown you before, we can go down to level 4, level 5 sometimes. Okay. The one thing that you've seen already, if you want to create a new chapter, you don't do that in here, but you can use the button on the right, add a heading, or what you can also do here is click the H1 button and then add a chapter below. You can also use this to move a chapter or to add an abstract or a bibliography. Let me do that real quick so we can have it in here. And we'll get back to this later when I talk more about citing. Okay, so there are a couple of elements that you need normally in the paper. And one of them, of course, it's figures. So in SciFlow, you click into the text somewhere, you click figure, and what you can see here is a field where you can upload an image and also type in a caption. If you then press enter, you can type some notes. So let's go ahead and maybe choose an image. And here you can see the small version. And then if you click it, it will actually load the original version of the image. So when you're handing your thesis in or you're submitting your paper, you can be sure that the full resolution is stored. That's actually everything that you need to do for figures. We will handle the placement and everything else. The same goes for tables. To add a table, click the table icon up here, and then you can actually choose whether you want to create a table within SciFlow or whether you just want to upload an image, which sometimes can be appropriate if you have some really intricate formatting that you want to keep from an external application. So in this case, I'm just going to click create, and I'm going to provide a table caption as well. The table caption is really important because in the end, in case we generate a a list of figures or list of tables, this is how your readers will be able to identify their table and will be able to navigate it through the document. Within this table, you have a couple of options. Of course, you can drag the table cells to rearrange them or to change the formatting. And what you can see up here, you get a new menu where you can actually add rows or remove rows to this table. You can also toggle the header rows, so you can change your styling based on what kind of data you want to display. The next thing that's really important, and one reason why a lot of LaTeX and Word users come together in SciFlow, is that, of course, equations are very important for a lot of dissertations and publications. And we've talked to a lot of users on how to do equations right. And what we ended up with is, well, actually writing in LaTeX for equations might be the best way and the clearest way to do this. So what we built in is a way to add the LaTeX formulas that you might have used before. But also, if you click on help, you can get a visual editor to compose your equations. So in case you don't want to do this, you can also do that. Here you can choose whether this equation is inline or whether it's a block equation. And this will then determine whether the equation is numbered or not. Okay, so we've seen so far figures, tables, equations. Now, one thing that you might do a lot in your paper is cross-referencing. You will say, as shown in figure 2, for instance. And what you can do in SciFlow here is you can, again, go to the document outline, and you will see here I have captioned my figure. And what I can do now is just drag it to the text. And when I hover over this, you can see the caption already. And when, in the end, you want to publish your document, what you will see here is actually a reference. So let me show that real quick. I will now publish the document. Have a look at the PDF. I could also have downloaded a Word document. There is no specific template in here, so it looks a bit more plain than the Frontiers template. But once I go to the section where I added a cross-reference, you can see that this has actually referenced figure 1 now. And if I click on it, I jump to figure 1 in this case. This is saying ABB, which is because this is a German template and it's short for figure in German. If you choose a template that is in English, of course, this will be in English as well. So actually, there's one part of the structure missing here, which is citing. So referencing and citing, it's something that's really important and something that causes a lot of work, because you might know reorganizing your bibliography, applying a specific citation style might be quite the pain to do and might take a lot of time as well. So what we decided to do is not to reinvent reference management, but to rather integrate tools that are there already. And there are some great tools out there. Let me again drag in another table just to give you an overview of what we have. So you might be using one of these reference managers already. There's Zotero, Mendeley, there's EndNote, Citavi, and of course there are others. And what we're trying to do is to make it really easy to use these references. Today, I'm going to use Zotero because that's one of my favorites, and it's also free and open source. So I have installed Zotero on my desktop, but you can also go to Zotero and do the same just online. The most important thing is that this Zotero can sync directly with SciFlow, and I'm going to show you how that works. What you do is you go to the site and you go to reference library. What you can then do is you can check out the references in this document, there are none, and you can check out the personal references. And these are all the references that you have used before, that you have imported from your reference managers, and that you might also have uploaded as a bib file. So going up to this menu here, you can connect to Mendeley. You can connect to Zotero, which I have done already. And you can also upload a library file. which usually will be bib. If you want to find more information on how to upload this, you can actually go to the bottom left and you can access our knowledge base from there. So if I just search in here, I will get a list of articles that you can click, that you can open to see how the reference upload works in detail and what you need to set up in your application to do that. I'm going to continue with Zotero now because I think it's the easiest way. So let's hop over to Google Scholar, which is something a lot of people are using. And let's look for collaborative writing. Okay. So what you can do now, and you've probably seen this before, you can click on one of these articles. You can start reading them. And then you can see up here, I have added the Zotero integration to my browser, which you can also do. And if I click this now and save this, it will actually show up in my reference manager. This will look different depending on what kind of application you're using. But if I now look at my reference manager, I can see the entry here. I can see that all the information has been added already. And most importantly, it's already available in the cloud, which also makes it available in SciFlow. So let's have a look at that. I will go back to SciFlow. And since I know there's an update, I will click refresh here. I will now give it a second to refresh and I can see the reference here. So now what I do is I just drag the reference into the text where I want to have it, and it's going to show up here. The thing is, you don't have to care about formatting, because depending on the paper that you chose or depending on the thesis template that you chose, we're already applying a citation style for you. If I go back to templates export and I look for my Frontiers example, this one, and I look a bit closer, I can see that the citation style for Frontiers and Aging Neuroscience in this case is already applied. I can also check out the author guidelines again, just to make sure that this is actually working. And then of course, if I click PDF preview with my document now, I will get the citation rendered. So let's go to the chapter that has the citations. And you can see the reference here. And more importantly, if you go to the bottom, you can see the bibliography has already been formatted according to the guidelines by Frontiers. But this, of course, depends on which journal you chose. And we'll also always make it right just for the journal you want to submit to. So I've scrolled to the bottom in the PDF. Now let's do the same in the bibliography here, where you can see that we've also compiled a list for you, and also to make it easier, we're telling you where you used which reference, which can be really handy if you have a lot of references and you're not sure which references you used where already. You can see the same information if you go back to the library. Now in this document, I have one reference, and if you actually look, it's saying this is used here in the document. You will also be able to browse the reference, and if you changed anything, you'll be able to refresh it so it's new in your document. So just going back through what I've shown you so far, we've structured a document, we've added some figures, added a table, we have added an equation and edited it. You now know how cross-referencing works. This, by the way, also works for headings. So if I drag this in, it's going to reference the subsection that I just created here. And then, well, you might be quite happy and start writing, but there's something missing. We're saying we're writing in the home office and we're writing with someone else. So let's go to Authors and invite someone. I've done this already here. So author who's in the call with me has already clicked this link, but I'm just going to show you how to invite someone else. What you can click here is first, what kind of rights this author should have. Should it be an owner of the document, an admin? Should the author just have normal writing capabilities in here? Or maybe you want the other person just to be able to comment, but not change any of your text. So you can do all three of these. And then you can either add their email address, or something that's quite nice, just click this little icon here. It will now copy a link to your clipboard. And if you hand this over to someone else, they can click the link and they will join the document just like Arthur did a few minutes ago. All right, so let's go to the next part. We've talked about starting with a template, how to write, but of course we're all here for how to write together. So I will add another heading, jump to it. And actually this is not the right spot, so I'm just going to move it up. And I'm going to call this tips for working together. So there are a couple of things that I can show you to work together and to actually make sure that you notice all the things that your co-author did, and to also start a discussion on the contents. So the first thing definitely is commenting. So let me again make this an H2 because it's a chapter, a subchapter. And actually, let me also drag in some text because I can't type that fast. I also just pasted in a reference, and that's just a side note. You will see that it detected the reference automatically because I've used this in SciFlow before. I'm quoting Alice Adventures in Wonderland here. And of course, I need to reference this and maybe read it now real quick. Maybe there's something in this part that I just pasted that I want to note. So now what I can do is I can just mark some text, click the commenting icon, and now I can say this. I can call this discussion on Alice. Well, I don't have to do that, but that's always a nice thing. And then I can write a comment, really only once, and I can post this now. Now this will show up for everyone else who is also in the document. So you can start a real conversation here on the contents. And sometimes what I do is I just add comments to have a reminder there of what I actually wanted to add without having to add it in the text and then reading it in the printout in the end. Of course, you can also then in the end delete the comments if you don't need them anymore. Okay, so number one was commenting. Number two is, well, how do you communicate over distance? The problem is when you're face-to-face with someone, it's really easy to see the intent of the other person. Are they smiling? What kind of mood are they in? And actually, science is based on data and hard facts, but communicating over time and distance is a bit more complex than that. So there are a couple of nice hacks that you can do in your document to make it a bit more enjoyable and also easier to understand for your co-authors and your future self. So one thing we like to do is add some colored emojis in your text that are easy to see and provide an intent of what you want to do in this section. So for instance, here I have typed, this section needs some work. And if I just added this just into the text, maybe I would overread this later and I wouldn't see it. But what I did was I added the thinking emoji here. I will show you real quick how that works. So you go over here, say special characters, and you just type thinking, you click, and it's added here. This is a really nice way to add markers in the text that call attention and that immediately make it clear what you mean in here. And you can leave this for your co-authors, or you can also leave this for yourself. So again, you might notice by now I like pasting tables. And I've compiled a list of my top 5 emojis that I actually like to use in my text. So number 1 I've shown you already, which is thinking. Number 2 is speaking. So speaking could be something I drop into the text when I want to discuss something later in the call, but I want to make clear that this is a topic that needs to be discussed. So what I would do is I would go back into the section with Alice. I would go up here and say speaking, not talking. we'll add it to the text, and then this will stand here, and it will be clear, and I can say, can we clarify this on Tuesday? Okay, typing is hard. And of course, if your browser supports spell check, it will do that for you as well. So that was number 2. Number 3, the magnifying glass, I use for something that needs a closer look or more research. Then this is actually a warning, children crossing. It will need some attention later. And then sometimes if you just want to polish the language in the end, you can have this finish flag there and just remove it when you're done with the section. So that's actually a really nice way to communicate over distance without being in the same room with someone, but still adding your own intent in your language, even though you might be in another time zone. The third thing that I want to show you is actually something we're doing right now, which is a live walkthrough. So a live walkthrough is actually going onto a video chat like Zoom, like we're using, or like Skype, and inviting all your co-authors. And something that we really like to do in SciFlow as well is we like to start on a document like this, and we're sharing our screen, but we're also sharing the link to the document, just like this. Now everyone in the meeting has access to the live documents. They can, if someone else is talking, update the document in live, but everyone will see it as well and they will hear it. So just like I'm sharing my screen now, you can do this in a meeting, you can have a discussion, but you will already have the documentation in the end. And if you want to finish afterwards, you can just click publish, export, and then you will have your finished document without ever needing to do anything else here. Now, I've shown you a lot of things here and I've talked a lot, but there might be things that and questions that you might have later. So to sneak in a last tip, that's not only for working together, but generally in SciFlow. Getting help from SciFlow. And for that, you can use the little icon on the bottom. I already showed you how to access the knowledge base. You can type something in here, but you can also start a new conversation with us. And you see my logo here. If you start writing here, we will reply. And if you have any questions, that's the best way to answer questions that you have. So let me jump back into the outline because I've used this pretty much throughout the whole webinar to show you what I want to show you in SciFlow and how everything works. So we've gone through the templates and the writing, and I've shown you some tips on working together. And I can actually see that Arthur was writing here as well, which is nice. But that's something that I can dig into deeper in a future session. What I want to do last is actually, well, let's add another section. Okay, and I'll call this, what can you expect from us here? All right, and you know me already, I will paste something. So this time it's a bit more. And I just want to have a quick run through because we always get asked a lot of similar questions. When will this be available on SciFlow, or how does this work? And I actually want to give you a preview of what you can expect this year and how we're going to make writing even easier for you in the future. So this is the 10,000K level. So it's not every detail that we're going to add this year, but it's certainly a good overview of what you can expect. So of course, we're going to add, make continuous improvements throughout the year. And the best way to get an improvement in is actually to let us know in the chat what's working for you and what's not. And once we hear something more than once or twice, we always think about how can we put like just one more thing into the next release. That's a big stress reliever for someone else, but an easy fix for us. So of course, we'll keep doing that. But we'll also focus on improving peer review. So what you've seen before is you can already add comments, and you've seen me just seeing where my co-author was just a minute ago. But we know that our commenting feature is certainly not finished. So what we want to do this year, we want to make it easier to comment text and to browse through the changes and comments that a user has done. So if Arthur added a comment, I would like to get a notification that there was a new comment added. And I want to be able to filter a list of all the comments that Arthur might have added. So that's definitely something that we want to add this year, and that will make peer review and internal peer review a lot easier. The second thing that we want to add, and this has been in huge demand, is change tracking. Right now, what you can do in SciFlow is you can click on history, and you will already get a good idea of what happened in the document, because actually after each writing session, we will save the document for you. And in this view on history, you will be able to travel back in time, and you'll be able to see what the document looked like at certain points, and also who edited it. But of course, this is not enough, and we know that. So what we're going to add this year, to the end of the year, is change tracking, where you can see who changed what in your document, and you'll be able to get notified when something happened, so you can really stay on top. If you're working from home, or if you're working at an hour where your co-authors aren't online, you're coming back to the document, and you can instantly see what changed and how everything works. So these are the kind of things that you can expect. But like I said, you can also always use the little chat icon and let us know what other changes you would need to have a better workflow. And we'd really love to hear your feedback as well. So these are all the parts that I've prepared for today. I will just jump back into the first section. And now actually we have some time for questions. So I'll just check with Arthur whether there are any questions in the chat. All right, I don't see any more questions. I think Arthur answered all of them. In case you want to reach out to us later, well, I've already shown you before. Just make sure to click the little chat icon and ask us what you want to know, and we'll reply to you. All right, so thank all of you for your time. If you want to sign up now and try this on your own, you can head over to sciflow.net. You just put in your email address and you can start writing. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.